Of course, that's one of the beautiful miracles of Jesus, the healing of the blind man, Bartimaeus. Bar means son of Timaeus, and then Mark even explains that it means son of Timaeus, because Mark wrote for a Gentile audience, so he had to explain the Jewish phrases that would have been known to the Jewish people, of course. But the few things in here, before we focus on the theme, I think, of the homily should be today, it's always the gospel, but I think in light of the book of Sirach, we're going to use that as our main theme. He calls out to Jesus, and it's funny because this is like how to pray. It's a book on how to pray. Call out to Jesus and let your cares go. He calls out to Jesus, Jesus responds, and he throws off his cloak. That little throwing off a cloak is not an accident. It's not like he just put that in uselessly. He threw off his begging cloak. He was so confident that Jesus would hear him and respond to his request that he left his old life immediately. And now, for us, it's a little thing. Nobody has an authentic begging cloak, but if you walk the streets and sometimes you see people who are homeless and they have their begging clothes with them all the time. So this man was not much different than that. He was begging, that's his lifestyle. He had nothing but his cloak, and the cloak identified him as a blind man. And of course, people would give charity, probably, so he would eventually be able to eat. But he hears Jesus, and he wants to go to Jesus. And the confidence of Jesus calling out to him, he throws off his cloak. That's a good hint for us. When you come to Jesus, leave it behind. Whatever you're praying for, leave it behind. He knows what it is. Throw off the yoke of that pain. In light of that, Jesus taking care and taking time to serve this blind man who was a beggar, I want to look at the book of Sirach. The book of Sirach was written about 150 years before Jesus. It's a very practical book. It was written for Jews during a diaspora through the Mediterranean, through the Greek world especially. So the author was trying to put the pieces together, like connect the dots. And what is the role of God, he's asking. And anything you believe about God, and listen, I'm not going to reread the whole section. This is chapter 42 in the book of Sirach. Anything you know about God comes from here. Anything we imagine about God, creator of all things, full of wonder. Nobody could take care of him because he's God. Everything is in his hands. He's wisdom itself. All his creation is beautiful. All his works are beautiful. The universe lives and abides forever because he preserves the universe. So everything we believe about God, and I want to even put that to the minds and conversations with non-believers, because some non-believers, those that we have not reached yet with our faith and message of Christianity, they'll refer to, quote, God or the universe. And I heard it was on TV last night, some phrase, oh, the universe is taking care of me this way. Well, we don't believe the universe is taking care. We know God is taking care of the universe, and when a person's prayers are heard or his intentions are responded to, it's God who is doing that, not the universe, okay? So our faith, everything we believe about God, even if in our simplicity, even like a child's faith, God takes care of us. God is creator of all things. But one thing I zero in on today is everything differs. Nothing's the same. Really good, really practical, important for us today. Yet none of them has he made in vain. For each in turn is good. That's us. What a phrase to look upon in this society in which we are in conflict with other nations, and in our social setting, we're in conflict in our cities, in our homes. Everyone is made, again, what you and I believe from our birth, in the image of God, and everyone is made by God, and God doesn't make mistakes, and God made no one in vain. Not the blind man, not the poor man, not the rich man, not the man who's on the outcast. No one is made in vain. And this is so beautiful for us to look at one another and say, you're important. Now, it sounds like a little, like a new kind of philosophy and, affirming one another. You're important, I'm important. Yeah, well, that's like current, hot philosophies, like the universe is taking care of us, and, we're all affirming each other. But the foundation of that is we should affirm one another because we're made by God. And when we love a person, no matter who, the beggar on the street, the neighbor, the parent, our relative, our best friend, our lover, whatever it is, when we really regard that person as special, we're giving glory to God. God created him or her. When we respect the poor, when we respect the minority, when we respect the people of all nations, and this is such in contradiction to, quote, the very popular, insidious theory of race that is permeating so many of our institutions, critical race theory, that the white man is important and everybody else comes under him. That's nonsense. That's a diabolical theory that was raised by people who are very insecure and people who don't know God and people who don't know that God is in all of us and that God created all of us. So I'm not more important than you, and you're not more important than me. We're very different, and the scriptures even says that. We're all different, but we're all good. We're made in the image of God. I mean, it's such a, you feel like taking this and putting it on the front page of our major newspapers. That everything we have is given to us by God, and it's up to us, and this is stewardship, to take care of it. And it comes down to the last thing, people made by God, and it's still our responsibility to take care of one another. That's why charity in our church is so important. That's why feeding the hungry, clothing the naked is so important. But individually, when we get out there in the streets, regard one another as God's creature, as God's creation, and love one another because in each term as it comes is good, and God's splendor is present in every one of us because none of us was made in vain by God. No mistakes. Father, we come to you.